What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading, back at it again with another crypto market update. Today we've got Solana, Sui, and Aptos. I'm sure you're all wondering what these three cryptos are up to. Have they bottomed? Are they going to pump? If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, guys, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of these cryptos. Your analysis of these cryptos could be different, and honestly, guys, if it is, that's awesome. As I like to say, the more difference of opinion we have, the better traders, the better investors we're all going to become. So with that being said, guys, let's start here with Solana. What's really interesting, of course, is Solana has been making a lot of announcements here. It's kind of strange that they've been making announcements related to a podcast that's from like 2 months ago. They've been really pushing a lot on some like a deep in project here called We Roam. And of course, this kind of foreshadows for me that maybe we'll see potentially a resurgence in like the deep in area. Some of you might know that one of the top blue chip deep in cryptos is Helium, which is of course on Solana, and Helium hasn't been doing too hot lately. But the fact that Solana seems to be focusing on DePIN, and it's something that was also mentioned by its founders in a recent interview. We're actually going to have a Solana update coming out on the main channel for that. But in my mind, guys, the thing that is the most interesting, forget about this DePIN stuff. What is interesting about Solana, and the reason why I think is going to pump, is DeFi. So let's turn over, guys, here to DeFi Llama, which is basically this dashboard that lets you track how much crypto is on these different blockchains, like deposit into their DeFi protocols, like for trading, borrowing, lending, all that kind of stuff. And as you can see here, guys, the total value locked in Solana's DeFi protocols continues to be really high. Actually, it's continued to rise even though Sol's price has gone down. And I guess for those of you who are unfamiliar, typically this DeFi total value lock, it's heavily influenced by the price of the token because, for example, Solana will be used as collateral or used for trading. And as a result, like when Sol's price goes down, then the total value locked in these DeFi protocols for trading and lending and whatever, the total value lock will go down. But what we've seen here, guys, is that we actually saw the total value lock continue to climb even as Solana's price was going down, which tells us that there was actually more inflows, more money coming into Solana's DeFi ecosystem. And this is really fascinating, guys, and it suggests basically that a lot of people are probably starting to borrow. There's a lot of stable coins, a lot of other cryptos moving into Solana's ecosystem, which is kind of like a very bullish undertone and suggests that Solana is going to continue heading higher here. And of course, if we just look at the, not that it's appropriate necessarily to do technical analysis on total value locked here, but if we were doing technical analysis on total value locked, it suggests that this TVL, this DeFi TVL on Solana is about to break out. And what's really fascinating, guys, is as you'll see, we're actually seeing the exact same thing for Sui and potentially also for Aptos. And taken together, guys, this suggests that we're actually going to see a pretty big DeFi rally like in DeFi cryptos. And I actually do think that's very likely because of a factor I'll come back to at the end of the video. That's going to be today's daily alpha, is basically revealing why the DeFi niche, I think, is about to explode. So with that being said, guys, it's about time we turn to the Solana chart here. And of course, we're on Binance. And what I did, guys, is you might have noticed I redrew the lines a little bit here. Some of you might remember that I was kind of zooming out a little bit more and looking at the starting point here down around $120. I've kind of moved things up because I found, honestly, guys, from traders that I think are really good, traders that I follow, the best ones, they just look at and it's kind of what I've been teaching you guys. You just look at the most recent price action, don't focus too much on the stuff that happened like 2 or 3 or 4 months ago or whatever. Just look at what's happened, let's say over the last month, maybe 2 months. And of course, we're on the daily chart here, guys, always on the daily chart. And so looking at Solana's recent price action here over the last month or two, we can see that the starting point of this most recent move was arguably somewhere around $180. And the resistance is somewhere around $240, which makes sense because that was actually the previous all-time high for Solana was around that level in 2021. So it makes sense that around $240 is going to be lots of resistance. We can actually see that here, of course, on the daily as well. And the target in that case would be $300 because all we have to do is take the difference between those two levels. So the starting point of 180, we have resistance at 240. Of course, the difference there is 60. So we just take the difference, add it to the resistance, and we get a target of $300. And if you remember, guys, in the previous analysis, the target that we had in mind was somewhere around 285. So it's still within that same range, like whatever it is, $10 or $15 difference, not a super big difference. I just want to, and you'll see I did the same thing for Sui, less so for Aptos because the chart is looking kind of the same. But I'm really like zooming in and focusing on more recent price action just to get a better read of where things could go. I do think that $300 is a logical kind of like psychological target. As soon as we see Sol get above this resistance level, I do think that $300 is imminent. It's probably going to push above that. Actually, Coin Bureau Club members will know that my personal target in the next couple of weeks here for Sol is around $330, so a little bit higher. So it wouldn't surprise me if that happened. But with that being said, guys, of course, Sol did get a pretty nasty drawdown here. It fell all the way back down to the starting point. It actually fell just below that yesterday, which is a pretty nasty wick. But what's really interesting, guys, is in the Coin Bureau Club, I was doing some technical analysis and I showed our members that it looked like that was probably the bottom, and that was based on a trend line that I had drawn on another chart, another Solana chart, going back some time. I actually wonder if it's here on the original. No, it's not, unfortunately. It doesn't matter, guys. Point being is that I basically called this bottom on Sol yesterday, and I do think that was probably the bottom, and I do think that Sol is going to start recovering. It's really funny, yesterday I know a lot of people in the comments were saying like, oh, like nothing's going to pump until the government starts printing or whatever. But of course, we got this news that Trump is going to start signing executive orders about crypto on day one, which is next Monday. And all of a sudden, Bitcoin went from whatever it was, 89K to 95K. We saw this dip get bought on Solana. We saw a whole bunch of altcoins pump. And it's just really funny how quickly things can change. Just when everyone is the most bearish and everyone thinks it's over, that's typically when the bottom is in and when we start to see a recovery. That's exactly what I was saying yesterday, and that's exactly what we've seen over the last 24 hours. Of course, it's a little bit too soon to say. We do have inflation data coming in today and tomorrow, so just do keep in mind that we could be in for a little bit more volatility, a little bit more chop and grind like we saw back here in late December. We could see the same thing for Sol here before it starts moving up to $200, which is probably going to be the first line in the sand, and then after that it'll move to $240. And again, guys, this support level is more for those of you who are planning on trading. I would not be looking to go long Sol anything or anything like that. Not going long, not getting super bullish until we do see Sol get above this $240 level. Once we do get a couple daily closes above that, of course, there was a little bit of manipulation here, but I do think that the second time we get above that, I don't think it's going to happen again. And if we do see a close above that, then that's the time to kind of, go for that $300 target. Of course, it'll only be a 25% gain compared to, currently you'd be looking at substantially more than that. I think almost something like 75% of my math is correct off the top of my head. But basically, if there is a rejection at this $240 level, then I do think that Sol would just fall probably back down to 200. I don't think it's going to go right back down to the starting point. Sorry for the rambling, guys. Sorry for the rambling there, guys. But I do think it's important to kind of make this stuff clear because, of course, I do get lots of questions about, like, is this target the top? This is not the top target for the crypto bull market. This is just over the next couple of weeks here. And I do think that Trump getting into office and FTX repayments starting sometime in February is going to be enough to take Sol above that to that $300 target and probably beyond, but we'll take things one step at a time. With that being said, guys, of course, as I was saying, we were using Binance there. Almost misspoke with Bybit there. We have 20% trading fee discount there with up to $600 in bonuses. And of course, we also do have trading fee discounts on KuCoin and OKX if you prefer to use other exchanges. And we do still have that sign up bonus on Bybit here up to $60,000 in rewards. And as I've been saying, guys, these trading fee discounts will help you out a lot. Even if you're just trading with a few $100s, a few $1,000s, those fees do add up. So, these deals don't cost you a thing to take advantage of. So just do take advantage of them using the link in the description. The exchange gets a new user, you get a trading fee discount, and we get a cut of those trading fees. So it's like a win-win-win for everyone. We really don't care what cryptos you hold. This is how we make our money. So long as you're buying and selling or trading or just buying and holding even, we also have some deals on wallets here too. So as long as you're doing any of those things, trading, holding, whatever, taking advantage of the deals in the deals page, we couldn't care less. We're not Solana maxis, we're not Sui maxis. I hold all three cryptos we're talking about today, by the way. So, just full transparency there. But of course, I don't think my commentary is going to have much effect on the price. Anyway, with that being said, guys, moving now to Sui, it was really interesting to see that Sui was also kind of boasting about here that they recently surpassed $2 billion in total value locked. And what's really interesting, guys, when we go to the Sui chart here for the TVL, we see almost the exact same thing that we see on Solana, which is that even though Sui's price has actually fallen, quite a bit, I would say, over the last few days, the total value locked has not fallen as much as a Sui's price, which suggests that there's more inflows. You can actually see this on I should have pulled it up, but it's okay, guys. It's you can take my word for it, or you can look it up if you want. You can actually see like bridging between these different chains, and you can see that Solana and Sui are getting a lot of inflows from Ethereum and other chains. A lot of people are bridging into Solana and Sui, and that suggests that we're going to continue to see a rally here in this total value locked. And I do think that this kind of echoes what we saw in Solana last cycle. So I do think that the TVL in Sui's DeFi ecosystem will probably 4x, maybe even more. And this would translate, of course, probably to like a 4x or 5x for Sui's price between now and the cycle top. I do think that Sui's probably seen most of its gains in percentage terms. Again, doesn't mean it's not going to pump. I still do think that Sui's going to go at least 4 to 5x from here between now and the cycle top. And in the shorter term, guys, I do think that this $6.4 target is still on the table. Of course, some of you might remember that last time we covered Sui, the targets that I had set, or I guess the starting point and everything, was closer around $2, resistance somewhere around $4, and then the target was around $6. $6. And I've kind of raised that a little bit, guys. And the reason being, again, is I was taking another look at the charts when I was doing this recent live stream here. Some of you might have seen I did a live stream on Coin Bureau Trading, and I was taking another look at the charts, and I thought, you know what, especially when I was switching between different indicators like Bollinger Bands and stuff, I thought, probably something around maybe 4.4, 2.4 seems to make a little bit more sense. Even if we go here, you can make the argument that the starting point is probably a little bit higher. And honestly, guys, all that means is that the percentage term gains and everything hasn't really changed there. Nothing's really changed fundamentally. It's just maybe like a, I don't know what it is, like a 5 or 6 or 7% difference in the price target. Which again, all these price targets, guys, are just I'm not being super exact here. I never try to be super exact, because the moment you start saying, oh, it's going to be exactly, I don't know, like 6.456 or something, you're just going to get wrecked every time, guys. Like it never goes to that exact target. It always fluctuates around, especially with all the leverage. And again, sorry for the rambling there, guys, but anyways, let's take things one step at a time here. So of course, starting point of around $2.4 roughly, resistance arguably somewhere around $4.4, especially after this recent move. We can see that there's a lot of buying as soon as SUI gets below this resistance level. A lot of people are buying that dip, so that tells me that's a really significant level. And of course, the difference between these two levels is $2, which gives us a target of $6.4. From the current price, you'd be looking at an upside of around 30 or 40%, which is not too shabby. Of course, it is in this territory where if you are going long, you're probably still in the green, so to speak. You're probably still safe, but just do keep in mind that if we do see a break below resistance, it's possible that SUI could fall all the way down to support. And again, guys, do keep in mind that we're going to get some pretty significant CPI inflation prints. There's going to be there's CPI tomorrow, but today's PPI. SUI could fall back below this resistance level and potentially retest this support before moving higher. But my base case is that it's probably going to bounce from this resistance. I mean, it kind of already has, and it's probably going to continue moving higher to the $6.4 target, especially on the back of all this DeFi stuff, which I do think is fueling SUI. I actually think most of SUI's move here was actually fueled by DeFi, like people borrowing against SUI to buy more SUI and stuff like that. That's just like based on my analysis on like the on-chain flows and stuff. This was from a few months back though, so I don't know if it still holds, but most of the initial move here was driven by DeFi leverage. I'm almost 100% sure of that. And I think we're going to see the same thing happen in much bigger size, not just for SUI, but for Solana and potentially for Aptos as well, which brings us, of course, to Aptos. And this is where things get, in my opinion, guys, truly, truly, truly fascinating. And again, not to get too much down the rabbit hole, but basically Aave, which is the largest DeFi lending and borrowing protocol in crypto. I'll actually pull up the DeFi llama here. So you can see Aave is second here, only to Lido Finance, which is, of course, liquid staking. Some would argue that maybe that doesn't necessarily count and blah, blah, blah. And we can get into we could get into the nuances, but we're not going to get into the nuances. Just forget about that, guys. For all intents and purposes, Aave is basically the largest DeFi protocol out there. And Aave has just announced that it's going to be deploying to Aptos. And what's really interesting about this, guys, is that this has actually been in the works for a very long time. I think it's been in the works for at least 6 months, maybe 7 months, maybe longer. Even Mo Shaikh, like the former, I guess, CEO of Aptos, who recently stepped down, he actually did a panel discussion with Stani Kulachov, who is the founder of Aave, and they were discussing rolling out Aave on Aptos. I've just found it very interesting that like it was taking so long to deploy, and I'm like, what's going on? I actually don't think it's that hard to migrate it over. I think what might have happened, and this is maybe going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I think that maybe there were some issues like related to like Mo Shaikh and this whole thing with like Aave, and as soon as it's just interesting that as soon as Mo Shaikh steps down a few weeks later, or I guess it's been probably a month or two now, but shortly after that, Aave announces, yep, we are officially going to start the testnet and start deploying this stuff. But who knows? It's probably just it's probably more related to Trump's inauguration, which I guess a little bit of a spoiler. That's what I think is going to cause a lot of the hype in DeFi. Of course, Trump is launching his own DeFi protocol. Everyone seems to forget that, but we'll come back to that a little bit later, guys. The point is that the largest DeFi lending and borrowing platform in crypto is going to launch on Aptos, and that's the first time it's launching on a chain that is not EVM. And I think that's going to be a very big deal. I think that's going to make it possible for a lot of capital to flow onto Aptos, because for those of you who don't know, at least when I last checked, I haven't looked too deeply into Aave for a long time, I'll be honest, guys. But from what I remember, Aave, specifically Aave v3, like this newer version, makes it possible to move funds between different implementations of Aave across different chains. So it'll be very easy for people to move their capital basically from all these other, like DeFi protocols on these EVM or all these other Aave implementations on these other EVM chains. It'll be easy for that to go onto Aptos, and I think that's going to result in a huge boom in Aptos's TVL, which just like Solana, just like SUI, and I would argue even more so. Look at this, guys. Like, of course, Aptos's price has been in the, just absolutely in the toilet. It's been collapsing over the last month. But look at the TVL. It just keeps going up. Right? Like, isn't that like this is like a massive contrarian indicator, guys? Like, I do think that we're going to see a lot of growth here out of Aptos, and like people are just like just look at this chart. Does this say it's bearish? That doesn't look bearish at all to me, guys. That looks like it's pulling back for another like higher. And of course, you can't really see that on the price chart, but it does foreshadow. Like look at this is just like almost like the complete opposite. But in my view, guys, like this does foreshadow a very, very, very big move for the Aptos or for APT for the coin. And of course, unfortunately, Aptos did fall all the way back down to to the starting point. I think I might have mentioned. I actually can't remember in the last video if I mentioned if that was a risk or not. But like Aptos has been very weak. Of course, there hasn't been like a really strong narrative or anything like this, but I do think that this is going to change. I do think that Aptos is pivoting into payments and savings and stuff like that. This is a lot of stuff that, some people doubt me on, but I do think it's coming. Again, I hold all three cryptos here, so I don't have a horse in this race, but of all the three, I do think that Aptos has the highest potential objectively here, like to the upside from the current level. I do think that it's going to hit this $20 target in the coming weeks, and that's going to be more than a 2x, which is a bigger gain than what you're going to see for Sol or for Sui. And again, that doesn't mean, it's really funny. Like when I say this, people will ask like, oh, does that mean I should sell my Solana or sell my Sui? And you're like, no, like, like I'm just telling you what I see in the charts here. Again, guys, this is just my opinion. My opinion is I do think Aptos is going to head to this $20 target. And of course, the way we calculate that is a starting point of around $8, resistance of around $14, which is of course a difference of $6. And that gives us a $20 target, which even just from this resistance level, which again, if you're trading, you have to wait until Aptos is above this resistance level before you start going long or getting too excited. Even then, though, guys, this is going to be a 44% gain to the upside, which is pretty massive. Of course, do keep in mind that if there is a rejection from this $14 resistance or maybe like a fake out like we saw back here in early December, then it's possible Aptos could fall back down to that $10 support level. But my base case, guys, is that if Aptos does get back to this $14 resistance and it gets rejected, I don't think it's going to be falling lower than $10 again. I don't think it's going to be going back to the starting point. I think it's going to continue heading higher, and I do think that $20 target is going to be hit here in the coming weeks, especially after the Trump presidency and or rather inauguration, which is again next Monday. And I'm really going to drive that point home at the end of the video, guys. But of course, before we do that, I need to shill the Coin Bureau Club here. That's where we do deep dives into small cap altcoins every single week, literally like 20 or 30-minute videos, just like looking deeply into these altcoins, finding like these promising 50x, 100x. We've actually found that I would say like a couple like 2 or 300x, or even I think there was even a couple that we found that were theoretically like 1000x potential altcoins in the Coin Bureau Club. And of course, this begs the question of how we're picking these altcoins. Basically, we have polls every single week, and the altcoins in those polls, they come from a combination of our research as well as the research of our members. We basically take everyone's suggestions on like, hey, like, could you add this to the poll? We take a look and we kind of like mix and match, so to speak. Everyone votes for the altcoins, including us, and we see which one wins, and that's the one that we review, which is awesome. Of course, we have a research feed where I'm sharing, the type of rambling that I'm doing here is the type of insights we share in the research feed, not just me, but other members of the Coin Bureau. We showcase our personal crypto portfolios as well as the cryptos that we're watching. We have an exclusive deals page with huge discounts on like crypto analytics platforms and like other crypto wallets and stuff like that. And of course, we do have a members Discord where you can ask us questions and where I'm doing technical analysis on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins every single day. With that all being said, guys, if you did make it this far, then it's about time we started looking at stuff here. So again, guys, it's just take a second to just let this sink in, okay? I don't even know how to put this into words. The next president of the United States is literally launching his own DeFi protocol. I mean, it's technically his family, I think, but let's get real, guys. Like it's him, okay? Trump's family is launching a new DeFi. Is literally launching a DeFi protocol, okay? In what universe? And not only that, but like this DeFi protocol has been accumulating altcoins, okay? So you have the president who's launching a DeFi protocol, and this DeFi protocol has also been buying altcoins. And then you have people saying, "Oh, crypto's dead. The top is in. It's all over. Prices are going to crash. All these altcoins are going to zero." When the DeFi protocol basically run by the president of the U.S. is buying altcoins, and you're saying altcoins are dead. It just reminds me of this scene. I don't know if you guys know Back to the Future. I think it's this bully named Biff. And basically he goes to the main character, or not the main character, but he goes to the main character's father, who's kind of like a nerd, and he'll like knock on his head and he'll be like, "Hello, McFly, is anyone home?" Like this is literally like when I'm reading comments of like, "This is over, we need liquidity, we need the Fed to stimulate, there's no way crypto can pump." It's like, just look at this photo, guys. That just look at this and let it sink in. This is what's coming on Monday. Are you going to fade that? Are you really going to fade that? When even just the report saying that, oh, on day one, there's going to be these crypto executive orders. Just on that report, the crypto market basically experienced on whatever, like, I don't know, like a multi-billion-dollar bounce just on the report, not even the actual thing. And it is coming, like, just come on, guys. And Trump is going to be moving very quickly here, I think. In contrast to his first term, I think he's going to try and push everything out as much as he can. He's going to be signing executive orders left and right about everything under the sun, especially because the crypto industry supported him so much. And he's literally launching his own DeFi protocol. The regulations are going to be very, very friendly towards DeFi, towards altcoins, towards all these things. And especially when you factor in all these other tailwinds, like, the debt ceiling being hit, like I was talking about yesterday, FTX creditor repayment starting in February. It's like, are you really going to fade this? Are you really going to say, oh, I'm scared, I'm going to sell here, and I'm going to, buy back lower when it hits 85K, like everyone was saying? And I'm basically the only one here saying that, like, I don't think that's going to be hit. Yeah, guys, it's I'm not going to lie, it's not always easy to be a contrarian, especially in these conditions when everything's crashing. And I'm still bullish, and of course, everyone in the comments. But honestly, guys, when I have so much pushback, like, not just for, like, it's not really the comments, it's more like, like from friends and family and people that that are like panicking. It's always really interesting, guys, that it kind of reminds me that, I'm probably closer to being right than being wrong. At least, maybe I'm wrong, but just look at this, guys. Like, come on. The next president of the United States is launching his own DeFi protocol and is investing in altcoins. I think he's like, his biggest holding is Ethereum, and everyone's fighting Ethereum. It's like, come on. Hello? Hello, McFly. Are you thinking? Anyways, guys, I think you get the point. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.